Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of November 18th, 2015. I am your host, Jose Otero, and this is IGN's Nintendo Show.
Oh, this is
always IGN's Nintendo Show. I'm not sure if you knew that, but joining us once again, the man who corrects fewer, and less than, more than.
Effect.
All of it.
Those are my
Per
favorites.
Schneider, welcome back. Always good to have you.
What's up, Jose? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you
I'm
were
back.
out last week.
I was. I forgot what I did. I was traveling, right?
You were traveling.
I was traveling, yeah.
Okay, and joining us once again, Callie Plagosaurus Rex is with us.
Hello, hello.
Yes.
I also like grammar.
Yes,
Oh, good.
right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he corrects me.
Fewer and less are very important to me.
This is see, you guys are going to
Every day.
bond over this episode.
Every day.
All right, so we've got a bunch of games to talk about. We have some question block questions. A bit of an up and down motion on this episode because.
What does that mean?
Well, that's going to mean that we're going to have a few lows and a few highs because
Well,
we're going to start things off
and then we're going to be great?
No, we're going to
I'm-
start by
I'm
talking
planning
off.
to not put in a lot of work at all.
Oh, good.
and
Well,
just
then
make it.
you'd be just like Mario Tennis Ultra Smash.
Jose way.
Yeah,
Jose
I hate to be mean, but let's start there.
Yeah.
So Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is now on IGN, is reviewed. Marty was out today, but we decided to talk about it anyway. 4.8 on the IGN scale, which is
Wow.
bad.
Yeah?
It's bad.
Wow, that's really low.
Yeah, that is really low. And so we want to talk about it with you and sort of help you understand sort of what and why and what our impressions of this game.
I mean, the Mario Tennis really set the trend for, tennis games. Kind of like it was the Mario Kart to Virtua Tennis, right? Like the Mario Kart to a traditional racing game. Loved the originals, on N64. Just played a ton of it. Plopped this one in expecting at least something up to par with that experience, but it wasn't quite there. So mechanically, it's good,
Yeah.
right? Like it feels right. It's beautiful to look at. The characters and
it's
everything look
gorgeous.
good. But you can tell that it is a gap filler. That this game needed to have more attention and more time in the cooker, and I think it's a victim of the Zelda delay. They needed, and the Star Fox delay. They needed another game for the holiday season, and it's just not done. It's not done. I mean, it's not because the frame rate is broken or it's buggy. It's just there's not a lot to it.
It feels like launch software.
Yeah.
That was one thing that struck me just a few minutes into playing it. And that's really unfortunate because anyone thinks of a console launch, they think of like, hey, a game can get a fundamental idea really right, but then everything around it is sort of empty or doesn't feel like it was really ready. And usually that's because it's a launch game, right? It's something that had to kind of come out in order to make it so people would buy a system. That's what this felt like, but it's launch software 3 years in. I mean, Wii U is hitting that birthday.
When was the last game in that series?
Mario Tennis was on 3DS.
It was on 3DS.
So it's not like
2012,
but
maybe?
it's also the
2013?
gap hasn't been that large that you're like you forgot what that experience feels like. As somebody who's a fan of that franchise, right? Like it's still very fresh in your mind, and so when you're seeing the graphics, you're like, oh, that's cool. It's an upgrade, and then. Yeah, I didn't like the Super Mushroom stuff. Like, I don't think Mega Mushroom. I don't think it adds very much to it.
I didn't like that either. Yeah.
Go with it, Callie. What are your thoughts so far? Like having played some of it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you that it's fine. Like I could play it, but I didn't like how it felt actually. Like I played a little bit and I wasn't crazy about it. I played tons of tennis on 64, like tons of that game, and this one was pretty, and I just didn't really see what else about it. Like, why would I play this instead of just going home and playing the game that I love, And then also, I heard Marty say that Rosalina feels the same as
Bowser.
And I wanted to point out that Rosalina is always a heavy character. The same way Bowser is. So I would understand if they felt the same. So I don't know if that's fair. But if all the characters, like if a lighter character, if Peach feels the same as Bowser, that's super weird. So I need to ask him about that. I need to try that out more.
Yeah, I think that there's subtle differences. It's like when I finished my PlayStation, I didn't play anywhere as much as Marty did, right? Obviously, he reviewed the game, so he played a lot of single player. I played multiplayer, which is where it's at with Mario Tennis. I did play a little single player as well. And it was just I walked away. I'm like,
Yeah.
And like in the kind of the list of games I'd play, including games on Wii U, I would rather go back to playing Mario Kart, Splatoon, and any of these other games and Mario Maker. Like Mario Tennis just feels like there isn't a lot of there isn't a very compelling reason to play. Like it doesn't have a campaign or a tournament mode that makes you feel like you're actually investing time to do something.
Whereas when Splatoon launched, there was a lack of content there, but there was the promise of more content. Like right up front, they were saying, "Hey, over the next coming weeks, we're going to roll out maps, we're going to roll out weapons, we're going to roll out." Party matchmaking. We're going to roll out all of these things over time, not even including game balance changes. Well, Mario Tennis got none of that.
Yeah.
But it's a Spartan package that seems like it's going to stay that way.
And Splatoon, of course, has the entire kind of like you want to get your character ranking up, and you want to, you have this kind of definite progression built in that I feel like it's much more clearly but it's much more clearly defined. And then there is a single player campaign that is quite meaty. It's still in Splatoon.
Yeah, but Splatoon's single player campaign, like months away afterwards, and I mean it came up in the re-review for it, but it is very much a one and done. Like for me, a meaty campaign is one that you end up going back to because you want to do certain things or you want to try different things. And I was very much in disagreement that Splatoon's stuff to try again was locked behind Amiibo. Like I thought that was pretty poor at launch. And to be fair, there is progression in Mario Tennis in the Amiibo game where you're training an Amiibo to play with you. But I was able to observe, and even through some of my own play, but I was watching Marty do it too. And your partner, you have to go through the steps where your partner is not good. And at first, like with Smash Brothers, you see the improvements happening rapidly. Like over the course of 2 or 3 matches, you start to really see signs of intelligent life. Whereas in Mario Tennis, those signs don't show up for a while. And so it was Marty basically being the ball hog, running back and forth, going, I got it. And that's pretty much what it looked like to me.
Would sound exactly like that too.
Yeah, thanks. I've been working on that.
Good Marty.
Yeah.
But in Mario Tennis, you also don't have the benefit of this being a unique and new feature, right? Like when Smash Brothers came out, we're all asking, how will you use Amiibo with this game? It was a cool idea to have these trainable figures. In the end, I just, for me, it did not become a true meta game where I wanted to keep on playing. But in Mario Tennis, it just feels like it's that again, but it's also not as fun to watch as a Smash Brothers match.
But it's online. I mean, I do think that there was something cool there where on day one that was there versus like when you got your Amiibo with Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers doesn't have them do that, at least when it came out.
That's true.
So there are little things like that. But yeah, unfortunately, before we continue going on for more than what seems to be almost 10 minutes of this, Mario Tennis, definite pass. Definitely, it's kind of unfortunate to see, but at the end of the day, that's where that game is.
Just for the dad angle, I think.
Did your kids play?
No, I had fun playing with my kids, and they enjoyed their time playing it. They did not ask to play it again, which is always a sign, right?
That's very telling.
They also remember it's like my house
Terraria
is a Disneyland of video games, right?
Yeah.
Like there's always something else beckoning for your attention, and this game didn't break through. That said, it's not like I didn't walk away saying, "Oh, this game is terrible" or anything. I was just like, it's very much paint by numbers. The mechanics are sound. It's fun. If you've never played a Mario Tennis game, it's a fun tennis game. There's no question about it. But you're not going to be engaged in kind of like a progressive campaign, or like don't think it's like a FIFA game or something where you actually have investment in a team and you want to stick with it.
Yeah, or even a character investment, like sort of seeing that character grow and change. Like you're supposed to try and get that through Amiibo, but as we said, not entirely the best way to do it.
Right.
All right, let's move on to Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, which Callie reviewed.
I did.
This is also on the site today. This is the next game that's trying to integrate Amiibo in I want to say in a deeper way than maybe a lot of Nintendo's other games have. It's not just unlockable costumes.
You can also train
pieces.
them. Yeah, you can train them and you get unlockable outfits, and that's pretty cute because Animal Crossing is adorable. But they also do function in the game, and I think basically there's a main board game and there's 8 mini games, and the mini games incorporate amiibo cards, whereas the main board game has the physical amiibo that are like your game pieces, and you tap in and you go around the board, and it's cute. But the mini games, like some of them incorporate amiibo cards in the worst ways, and I just hated it. It was so clunky. was really, it hurt my entire heart and soul to give that game the score I gave it.
Yeah.
What did you give it?
I gave it a 5,
Yeah.
which is mediocre.
Yeah.
Not quite bad.
Yeah.
I thought that it had good ideas. I thought like the stock market integration. If you're familiar with Animal
So
Crossing,
good.
the stock market is fantastic.
And that's part of the board game.
That's part
for
of the main
context for
board game.
folks. Yeah.
Yes, and that was awesome. I loved that because it made me feel like, oh, this isn't just up to a die roll. I can kind of strategize. Like wealth begets wealth in that board game, and it actually gave me kind of an incentive to try it.
And risk-taking
again.
has sort of positives and negatives,
Yeah,
which is something I thought was very cool.
To explain
Very,
it,
very
you can
good.
buy, at the start of the week on Sunday, you can buy turnips, just like in Animal Crossing.
Joan
and
comes
then
through.
The
Joan.
value changes throughout the week. Like you can decide how many you buy, and then the value of the turnips changes depending on certain events. Like the market can crash,
Yeah,
and you see
and
the
that-
value of the turnips on the fields you land on, and you can decide to, like, if you land on a field where the value is high, you can then sell.
Yeah.
Or you can
sell.
say, hey, I'm going to wait till the last possible minute and hope
Yeah.
I get a good one, but the market can also crash. And that was a really smart element of that game.
Super smart. I thought, because in regular Animal Crossing, the prices are just different every day. It's not like a
And they're different in other people's towns.
Yeah, and so basically people on Twitter would be like, turnips are 300 bells in my town, come sell. Yeah, right? But in this, it's like you have to make sure, number one, that you get a good die roll and land on a good space. That
Or use a dice
or use-
card,
yeah,
right?
you get,
Which you
dice cards. Which
strategy.
I didn't get as many as I would have liked to. It's kind of hard to get them because you have to land on a correct space in order to get one.
Oh,
Sometimes.
I got plenty, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely
It's all-
became a
You
strategy.
got way luckier than I did.
Yeah.
So there's a huge element of luck, but also, you land on the space with a good price. And my whole thing was, okay, I can get a modest profit, but then there's the risk of the market might crash, but it also might get way better. And then I'm screwed because the NPCs are just going to sell right away. And I loved that. I loved the, like, I'd really have to sit there and think, like, okay, how much I invested a lot of bells in these turnips, and now I'm just gonna sell them for like 100 bells, and it'll be fine. So that I think was really fantastic. I think the
It
rest
can
of the
be a
boards,
game changer for someone who is very,
yeah.
who risks a lot.
Yeah.
And that happened when I was
I
playing
also
with my
thought
kids.
it was very smart how they integrated that when people visit town, it does change the way the board game plays and the way the flow sort of takes over. Because, like, if Katrina comes out, for example, you have a chance at meeting with her, getting a card that impacts how you gain happiness. So the point of the game is you want to be the happiest person in the village.
and that's so sweet.
It is incredibly cute.
Yeah.
And the idea is that two ways to get happiness, either by landing on squares and, gaining happiness that way, or at the end of
Or
the
losing
game,
it.
or losing it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the game, the money you have for every 1,000, you
Yes.
get 1 happiness point.
Yes.
So it also helps to basically build up a small fortune of bells, test and play around with the market on stock market. And then you have these characters who visit every day because the way this board game is played is it takes place over a month. Now, if you don't want to sit there for the hour it takes to go through one play session, they tell you to speed it up. You can go
You can time limit
30
it.
minutes, 45 minutes. I like, too, that if you put a time limit on the game and the game is getting interesting, they offer, hey, do you want 10 more minutes?
Yeah,
We
and
did
Figure
that.
this out.
The first time I played it, I put a time limit on it, and then I was like, no, 10 more minutes, no, 10 more
Yeah.
minutes, and I kept playing. And so I thought that was really strong, and I love that they incorporate, something that's very true to Animal Crossing, having people come visit your town, and that changes the way that day goes in a normal Animal Crossing game. And in this board game, it changes how that day is played out in the board game. So I thought that was very clever. I did think there wasn't enough depth to the board game to keep me playing beyond a couple playthroughs. I've been on that podcast once, and so I'm not used to that yet.
Yeah.
You totally let
Yeah, I
me-
totally derailed you. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
thanks, thanks.
But it
Thank you
didn't
very
call
much.
you back.
It's once I'd played it a couple times, I was like, I've pretty much seen everything that I need to see. I think maybe if I'd done every month once, I would have seen something new. So I did November, December, August, and April were like the big ones that I tried out for an extended period of time, like a full playthrough. And August was really cool because in August in Animal Crossing, you have the fireworks show every Sunday or Saturday, I forget. And
It's Sunday. Yeah.
and I should know that.
That's okay.
I've played so much Animal Crossing. It's really, really great, and it's just having that spirit of Animal Crossing always present made me more engaged. And then I moved on to the mini games, and some of them I really liked, and some of them I really did not.
The balloon thing is cool, right? Like, first of all, for people who are not following this game, it is a board game, and not the way Mario Party is a board game.
No.
It is a board game.
It's a better board game than it is a video game.
Like, you are not fighting with anybody between rounds or competing. You're literally just rolling the die. And what they try to do is they try to connect the digital and the real world. The rolling the dice is done by, using your amiibo and putting it on the NFC spot, basically, which is, it's a cute idea trying to make it feel like more of a physical game, but it's also a little irritating because when you're playing with 4 players, you have to pass around the gamepad for the only reason to do this kind of stuff, and it would be much more convenient to have your own controller and stuff. But the mini games are really weird because you whip out a card, put it on the NFC field to
do what a
perform an
button would
action.
do. Yeah, to do something a button would do this.
So some of them didn't incorporate the amiibo cards like that, and those were my favorites. So the quiz show, if you play it single player, doesn't do that. If you play it with more than one person, it does, and it has this weird spotlight thing, and there's a lot going on if you play it with
You'll break a card if you do it wrong.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. You're both rushing for the same spot.
You'll bend your card.
And someone else.
I thought that was a mistake. The single player, you don't have to touch it at all, which is great. Yeah. There's like a Mystery Campers game, which is like Mastermind. If you've ever played Mastermind, it's like a logic puzzle board game. It's exactly like that, except just super cute. And I liked that one because I like logic puzzle games. And the last one I really liked was Island Escape, which is kind of Nintendo's take on a survival genre. So you're trying to get off this island in 7 days. And I never had this problem because it wasn't too hard, so I never ran out of food. But I was wondering, how are they going to deal with you running out of food? Do you die? You don't die in Animal Crossing. What do you do? So I really liked that one. I thought that one was a lot of fun. It's resource management. It's trying to coordinate with the different amiibo cards. And I like this integration is if you have a lot of amiibo cards, you can kind of strategize with your 3-animal team. Like, oh, this animal has a cool ability that. So I had one card where the ability was like it was a rhino, and she would just charge forward until she couldn't go forward anymore, and it was really cool because you get all these items. And so there were smart integrations. And then the whack-a-mole one was whack
because it's whack-a-mole, but each station is rock, paper, scissors, and you have to actually pay attention before you whack if it wins. But you have the tiniest window to figure that out. So I want to meet.
It's a bad rock, paper, scissors. It's not well created. Yeah.
So I had, I'm sitting on my sofa, right? I have my gamepad on my lap, and I'm trying to do this. I'm like dropping my gamepad on the floor trying to do it. I did not.
It was
like
an
that
example
at all.
where that physical aspect does not work well with the game because you're trying to pay attention to like 3 different things.
And that game works better if it's split among 3 people. That doesn't I feel like the big story for me with this game is that it shows the weakness of only having one controller that supports amiibo.
Right.
If you did the quiz show, if you did rock, paper, scissors, if you did a couple of the other modes, which they're not coming to me, even the board game itself, if each person was just tapping their thing to their controller, to me that alleviates a huge amount of stress in that game.
I agree. So, by the way, I really liked the balloon game, which was like all of these mini games, they would make perfect standalone mobile games if they had some depth. All of them feel like freaking iPhone games. They could be really popular because of the characters and each one of them could be freemium games and they would totally work. Yep. The balloon one, you're putting a card down and that whatever character is on the card will be summoned at the top with a bunch of balloons, and like the heavier characters will have more balloons holding them up than the cats, for example. It's really cute the way it's done again.
Yeah.
The moment you remove the card, the balloons will pop and the character will fall, right? And then the character will bounce off a whole bunch of balloons, like a reverse version of Breakout almost.
Yeah,
before landing on an island or in the water. If you land in the water, bad luck.
And the island is separated into 3 platforms. The highest point is worth the most points, and then the smaller, the areas that fan out are worth less.
So my daughter and I played it, and like the card integration, after the initial, I will do all cats, or I'll do elephants, or whatever, after that, it wears off, and it really just becomes a weird physical integration. But the game itself is really fun. It's like it really shows just how clever Nintendo is, even with mini games.
Yeah, I would really have liked to see some of these just on mobile. individually as mini games.
Yeah.
Like I would play the heck out of that island game if it was just on my phone. I'd play it every morning on the train to work. I liked the camping one too, because it's not something I want to sit down in front of my TV and play for an hour. I want to play it for 10 minutes.
I was it really confounded me when I saw those games. I'm like, they're your freaking mobile games.
They're mobile games.
You could have had them this year.
Yeah.
This package does not work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work on the Wii U,
Yeah.
and especially because of the format, I felt like once I'd played all of the modes, and this is my big drawback and why it kind of earned the score it did, is once I played each of the games a couple times, I felt like I had mastered them, and it doesn't fit the format, because I'm like, I have no reason to pick this up, to sit down in front of my TV, turn on my console, and play through this for any extended period of time, because I've done everything basically.
So that's where I ended up, and again, like daddy here, right, with 3 kids, we played it like we would play a board game, and like, you know, the turnip thing is really cool in that, you know, the price of the turnips is displayed on the board, and it does a lot of work for you. But everything that board game does, a physical tabletop game can do.
Yeah.
There are modifiers, there are indicators that
Sure.
would help you, even with a turnip selling thing. Like, all of that can work in a board game. And so ultimately, I had fun playing it. And I went in, I'm like, oh man, there are not going to be any like mini game challenges in between rounds. It's going to be boring. And then we set the timer for 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'll just play for 30 minutes with the kids. And then, all right, 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes. We kept on playing because it was fun.
Yeah, I did have
had
fun initially.
But then when I sit down, I'm like, would I choose that over a physical board game? And the answer is clearly no.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There is... The figurines are so cool, the Animal Crossing ones. I almost
the best
wish it
ones
was a
they've
board
made.
game.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it would
no.
actually make much more sense.
So
as
they
a
are
physical
the
tabletop
best
game.
amiibo I think they've made, but it's weird to me to be at this conversation because I honestly enjoyed this game, I think, more than you both did.
Yeah.
Not from the minigame standpoint. I thought a lot of the minigames were very throwaway, but I thought the board game, the way it's captured and presented, I think is
Single
very...
player or multi?
Multiplayer.
Okay.
No, multiplayer
Yeah.
and single player. Like, I honestly, when you said you don't have a reason to really take this out again, I actually do. I think, you know, when my roommates say, hey, we want to play this board game, I would be totally like, oh, yeah, no, let's do it.
Do you have other board games in the house?
We do have other board games in the house. Yeah, we have Pandemic, we have Life,
That's a
we
good one.
have, we have also card games. But I will admit it is not a great video game, and I think that's its biggest
the issue.
problem. Yeah.
It's
But
a fun
in
board
terms of,
game.
and it is a fun board game.
Yeah.
But I do feel that, and this is something we glossed over, but the daily events that happen every time you land on a square in the board game, an event pops up that is in very much an Animal Crossing way, and you can picture a card doing the same effect. But seeing it on screen, hearing the silly like Animal Crossing sounds
The
from
sound
the
effects.
to someone like just clapping endlessly, that stuff to me still really works. I just wish they had figured out more ways to make it feel like a better video game. But yeah, this is one of the few times where I feel like I disagree. Like, I feel like it was actually okay.
I mean, like there have been experiments with trying to tie, you know, audio and video to board games, and a lot of them are really cheesy, right?
Yeah,
like
they
there were
don't work.
VHS-based board game combos. There's one of my favorites from Milton Bradley was Dark Tower. That was a game where you had this rotating pillar that would bring up events and play music and sound effects, like a dragon would appear. Those were really, really cool, and I feel like almost this is trying to be that, and it could have worked if it had a beautiful board and with these amazing figures. If the gamepad was the center attraction of that board, it could have totally worked and added something that other board games don't have, namely that kind of character coming alive.
Presentation. Yeah.
But few people would buy that. It's fussy, right? It's an
completely agree.
investment.
Yeah, no.
So I understand why they didn't do that. But ultimately, that's why I walk away from this game in the end and say it wasn't that successful. Is there? We have a lot of board games, and we play those over this. You know, it's a good and fun board game. Yeah. But it's not one of the best.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a lot of reason to go back to it.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Like, I wasn't bored my whole time.
Bored. All right, keep going.
I've made that pun several
many
times
puns.
about this.
Yeah, sure.
Jose.
I'm partly to blame.
Too much bored.
No, stop.
All right, keep going.
No, it's not like I didn't enjoy it. I think that the appeal wore out really fast for me, and that's why I didn't like it as much. Like, if this isn't fair for a criticism. Like, I didn't include this in the review for a reason, but I know my much younger self would have gone crazy for this game because I loved board games growing up and I didn't really have anybody to play them with. And you can play a lot of this single player, and I know I would have really liked that if I was, 8 and had this game like that would have really been great for me.
I do think there's an audience that will pick this up and run with it and have a great time
right?
with it.
They're kids, and then drinking game. Let's not forget.
So
for sure.
It is the drinking game factor, and we haven't tried that yet.
I have plans. I have plans to try that with Andrew Goldfarb. It's gonna be great.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. So I think there's an audience. Like people think that a 5 is like a super bad score. On our scale, it's mediocre, and I think that was appropriate for how I felt about this game. I don't think it's throwaway. I don't think that there's no place for it.
Thought went into this game. There's no question about it.
Yes, and the details are excellent. And for an Animal Crossing fan, it was delightful for me to go through and see all of that. And I loved the quiz show.
Shocked you got stumped by the quiz show.
The quiz
Callie
show,
is she knows more about Animal Crossing than U.S. history, I think.
Yeah, I know so much about Animal Crossing and the quiz show. No, I mean, I don't know that much. I was really bad at history. That quiz show is hard. Yeah. It is super hard, and that'll be a fun drinking game, I bet.
Sweet.
So I mean, don't think that a 5 is completely panning it. People are like, "Wow, you really trashed this game," and I'm like, "No, I did not trash this game. 5 is a 5."
It's not a glowing recommendation.
No, it's not. I'm not like, yeah, go out and. Yeah.
All right. And on that note.
Yeah. Don't pick. Yeah. Exactly. So.
Exactly.
But it's
fair enough. No, but good job. And
look. It's one of those games where I'm happy it exists. Like, it's good that we get these experiments. I do have a feeling it too is suffering from the kind of we need a game right now factor.
But this is the closest we've come to a game that Amiibo is absolutely required. And we've talked about this on the show.
But not really, right?
But not really. But it still is. Like, don't forget you're not really. Like, this is what they sent. This is what they shipped.
It replaces pressing a button in a way.
It does.
For the most part.
This is Nintendo's Amiibo game.
It's
right?
a tactile.
Let's not pretend.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, honestly, it would have been cooler if there was a Bluetooth die. When you roll it, the game would automatically know what you rolled. That is a smart integration with a digital board game. What it felt like is just we got to come up with a reason why you have this toy in your hand and to make sure that you keep it with you. That's what it felt like to me.
That's okay. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I definitely will say if this is the representation of what Nintendo's Amiibo knowledge will give us so far, sadly, it's a bad one, and it's a sad one. Even though I thought it was a lot more enjoyable, I would still say that from the perspective of someone who's been exposed to more toys to life this year with like Disney Infinity, which we talked about on the show,
Lego.
You with Lego, I just feel like this is not the best example of what I think could be done with it. Yeah. Also, though, to be fair, and I don't think this has anything to do with it, but I think it is worth saying, is that Animal Crossing has never been a traditional series by any stretch of the imagination. No. So to turn it into something that's non-traditional to me just feels like it is in that vein. But again, it didn't really work out.
You don't want to punish something for what it's not, and I think it does do what the normal Animal Crossing series does, and take something that doesn't. When you describe it to someone, you're like, why is that fun? When I describe Animal Crossing to people, they're always like, why do you even like that? And I'm like, I can't explain it. I have so much love for this series, and that's why the review hurt me. But it was that little Animal Crossing animation of like the little sad cloud. That was me the whole time. Yeah. But I just, if they ported it to mobile, like that, I would re-review it. Like that is a totally different.
The mini games, not the whole thing.
The mini games, not the board game. So so.
Just want to help you out.
Yeah, thank you.
Make it a physical board game.
Let's collect our thoughts. Come back and talk a little bit of Xenoblade and some question block. We'll be right back.
We'll collect our thoughts.
Listen.
Welcome back. Jose Otero here with Per Schneider and Callie Pleggy.
Hello.
And let's lead this off with some Xenoblade talk. Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming up. I am working on the review. At least 2 of us have played it. Callie, did you get to?
A little bit.
Okay, cool. All right.
Barely, though.
So I am many hours in.
And you played the Japanese version before
I did.
To the best of your abilities, right?
I did, to the best of my abilities for like 20 hours, believe it or not. Like, it did not bother me to like run around and try in vain to get a skull and ultimately fail miserably. You got to read that kanji. But
nope.
I will say that if you played Xenosaga, if you played Xenogears, one of the common threads with this series is just this very epic tone and epic feel. And even Xenoblade Chronicles, the one on Wii, just big scale, large scale things happening on a galactic level even. You know, and you're tossed into this hostile world. And I feel like the world itself is a very fun place to explore. The only thing I'm worried about, and it's very fun to run around in, the only thing I'm worried about right now is that without the online, because I've played the Japanese one with online, there are not a ton of discoveries to be made in the early part of the game, and it's incredibly chatty, as RPGs tend to be. RPGs have a lot to tell you at the start of any RPG, right? Like, why are you here? What is the world? What are we up against?
And there's the side effect of being translated from Japanese, right? Where like it is you can scan a line of text much faster in Japanese, and so the constant like, oh, are you now? Yes, I am. Are you really? Kind of like weird filler banter that in English doesn't works well in Japanese. You know?
Yeah, and I feel like, and it's funny because you feel this cross-cultural, or this attempt to, with any localized game, sort of try to make sense of some of stuff that to some degree feels very Japanese. Like I found this side quest where I had a rival who I didn't even know who he was, and you kind of look at him as like, what do you mean I'm your rival? Like I don't even know who you are. And it sets off this long quest line where you basically have to accomplish 3 tasks to earn his respect, and then once you've earned his respect, you run off on a mission together, and you gain his respect. Each affinity mission feels like a little, almost like a bite-sized like episode of like an anime or something, like some big robot survival anime where it's like there's conflict, there's resolution, there's what's the next thing on the horizon. It's not presented in that way, but it very much feels that way, like just small, like bite-sized, like narrative-wise.
Yeah, I've noticed that this game, it feels very much like a mech anime in
totally.
a lot of ways, and you can see that influence there, and so I like that aspect. But does it? I mean, you mentioned like it's kind of almost monster of the week is what it sounds like to me from what you said. Like, oh, we resolve this thing and now we go on to the next
and it's not
thing.
always a monster. Sometimes it's like that weird rival thing.
Trope of monster of the week.
It feels incredibly tropey at some degree. And it's definitely, I do like some of the voice acting, but it feels stiff. I have to be honest with you guys. Like in cutscenes, there's that very like, and so we're going to talk about, and even though maybe the voice acting is very well delivered and all of that.
Well, that's because we're so used to seeing these big open world games and RPGs with mocap, right? Like you see lifelike actors. You know, you look at games right now like Tomb Raider. Fallout actually looks very stiff too.
Yeah, Fallout's another one.
It has that challenge too. But you know, certainly in the RPG genre now, there are more games too with more natural movements. You know, Final Fantasy, all those games. So yeah, it looks very stiff. The world is beautiful. I mean, some of the kind of the lighting and everything looks really beautiful. It's huge. The world is humongous. There's some really big creatures in that world, but it also feels a little. You know, adding to that stiffness is that the things don't interact very much with each other, right? Like, and I think that's where initially when you see it, it's not going to be like Red Dead Redemption or you know any of these games where like or Grand Theft Auto where you walk in, you see all this traffic and like people talking to each other or animals running around. It's not like that. It's a little bit more like going to a theme park, you know, where the animals are like stationary and doing stuff. You get that sense too? Like,
no, I do.
There's this level of artifice, but you get drawn in by that world and by the characters in the quest.
Yeah, and even when I do see some some unexpected interactions. So, for example, I watched a big dog-like creature, which it looked like they were feasting on something. I wasn't quite sure because I was trying to stay away. Because the other thing that happens really fast sometimes is you go wandering off and you end up surrounded by level 30, 40, 50, and you're like,
don't pick a fight with something that's big. I learned that fast.
Yes.
And you're just there like, whoa. Like all of a sudden you're surrounded by elephants and you're wondering, and not real elephants, I mean just in terms of scale.
Space
and you're
elephants.
saying to yourself like, oh my goodness, like what am I going to do? But I really want to explore this nook because I know that there's a Moranium vein here, which these are resource points that you have to set up probes. And the minute you set up probes, you're basically setting up an economy that you're going to then take those resources and dump them into weapons development, dump them into resources in other places.
Oh, I love everything about that.
And I mean that part is really cool. But unlike maybe a Fallout or maybe even a Metal Gear, you don't really, or even Witcher, like and whatever. Like this is an RPG, but feel free to correct me, guys. But I feel like you don't tumble down rabbit holes. Like this year, one of my favorite side quests happened in The Witcher, which is an action RPG, to be fair. It's not straight up RPG. But I found this side quest where I had to help someone out because his daughter was cursed and she was going to die. And then you stumble upon this village where you find out, okay, the thing that's trying to kill his daughter was a bride-to-be who was violated and killed. And and I'm not saying that I want the same story arc, but I'm saying that it was a rabbit hole that got deeper and deeper and deeper. And the finite part was the most interesting.
The Bethesda games do that really well, too.
They do.
Right? Like where you find out somebody is possessed and lives in a dream, and you go into that dream. You're like, why is this here? Right? Like, they have this.
Yeah, and the way Xenoblade presents a lot of its side quests, that doesn't seem to really exist. You know, like stumbling upon discoveries.
So they
that
start
way.
and end. They don't. You don't kind of fall into them. Because I remember when I was playing Skyrim, like I got so far into the quests and barely touched the story because I just kept finding a new thing and finding a new thing.
Sure. And you want to, like, if somebody says, "Can you help me?" You can't say no, right?
Yeah, of course you have to be nice.
Of course. I have 500 quests, but I'll add you to the list.
I can't be mean.
I'll be right there next year. Just 80 hours. Hold
just
on.
stay alive for 80 more hours of this game. Yeah,
gotta go get that silver thing.
I can't be mean in a game. It's really hard.
No, but you initiate when they happen. Like you'll find these points in the world where it's like, hey, this is an affinity quest, and they warn you. They'll say if you take this, there are specific like side quests that you do, subquests, and then there are affinity missions, which are meant to sort of just build up reputation or get you on better terms with different people or introduce you to new potential party members, and that's cool. But they warn you if you take this affinity mission, you cannot do a story mission until you are done with this. You also cannot add people to your party until you are done with this. And at first, I was like,
No. My first thought is, thank you.
Really?
Okay, so I have this thing with games where I get really, like, frozen, like, paralyzed about making the wrong choice. And that impedes me a lot of times when I'm playing
like Mass Effect, like character sacrifice, that kind of thing?
Like, I'll just be like, did I do the right thing? And I'll get really... it's really bad, but I'll save and then I'll reset, or I won't save and I'll reset and I'll do the same mission a bunch of times to do that. I'm really bad about that, and I'm trying to get better, but it's hard. So if I get a warning like, remember, you can't change your party, do that first, be ready, I'd be like, okay, cool.
So you're actually more of a fan of a little bit more of a kind of a guided hand.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It feels like a railroad when that happens, and I'm like, I don't know about this.
In a huge game, it helps to have a little bit of structure. Although
I agree there.
I wouldn't say it's better or worse than another format. Like, because I just said I loved Skyrim. I loved going down that quest rabbit hole. So. But then 60 hours in, I was like, I invested in the wrong skills.
And that happens in like games like Fallout or Witcher often, where you're just I
studied the wrong... pump up luck? I still don't know what
I studied the wrong major. I read the wrong major.
I actually did do that in college. In college, I was like, I am in the wrong track. Like halfway through, I was like, no. So, so I appreciate both. Like, I think both are great. So I like that in a game that's, you loaded up a 100-hour save and new things were happening.
Yeah.
That is kind of nice. It gives me a little bit of peace to know that I'll get a little help.
This particular affinity mission, though, didn't have a happy ending for me because, and I'm not, whatever, I'm going to take full blame for this, and I want to put this out as full disclosure because I want people to hear about this situation and get your feedback on this. So I signed up for the affinity mission. I said yes. I was like, all right, whatever. Like, I'll get this done. And then one of the 3 things they wanted me to do was very difficult to do. It required me to earn. So basically, when you set up these Moranium veins and you set up these probes, you're getting a daily income from them. All right. So let's look at this. Basically, they wanted your daily income to exceed 3,000. Was the prerequisite. Which means you need a lot of Moranium veins. So guess what I was doing? Running around like crazy trying to find them all.
Is there a time limit too? Oh, no.
There wasn't a time limit to it. I could take as long as I want. And if I didn't want to work on that mission or I wanted to work on smaller side missions, I could set a different mission as my main mission and focus
it's
on
progressive,
it. So it is progressive. But one of the things that occurred to me is that it was taking so long to build the affinity. I felt like I just wanted to get back to story. I didn't want to do this. And there was no way to quit the affinity mission. You cannot abandon the quest.
You can't abandon it?
It will always be in your queue. Any mission you bring up you can't get rid of. They just sit there until you feel like
Does it block anything?
I don't think it's terrible, but in the Affinity missions case, it does block story progress. Which to me, it's like, why? Like, why? It hurt, like, to the point where, like, my progress kind of got halted. However, I don't want to take out on the game.
Make commitments now, man.
It taught me 100% to think about.
Don't take quests lightly.
The Affinity,
Jose.
Exactly. It taught me that Affinity quests are not to be sneezed at. I got that part. But it does make me sort of wary of, okay, well, I really just want to focus on story. And there are different prerequisites for getting the chapters to continue moving forward. And so I'm trying to keep my eye on that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I don't want to take it out on this game that I'm on a time crunch to play it. And so I'm trying to speed, all right? So I get that Affinity missions, variety, the submissions, they're all part of this big ecosystem of things to do. And I appreciate that they're there. But it did bug me that by accepting this Affinity thing, I'm locked out of this story stuff.
Well, but that's not just a problem for a reviewer who wants to progress in the story. To me, that's a pacing issue too, right?
Sure.
If I'm locked into a certain mission. That's why I liked, Grand Theft Auto, the last Grand Theft Auto I thought was brilliant in that it had 3 characters. This was one of the few GTAs that I actually played to the end, because whenever I would get bored with one of the storylines, I'd jump to another one. I'd go to Trevor and do some stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was really clever. And like, there's some games where you're locked in a path where you just got to do something that you don't want to do at that point in time. And so more flexibility in those cases is good, not just for reviewers, but for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are a ton of variables to this game, and I think that's really cool. There are a ton of weapons, a ton of things dropping, a ton of resources where you can drop things. Quests are very specific. Like there was this one quest where I have to kill a tyrant. So a tyrant is take any monster, but it's sort of a beefed up version. So let's say I'm a level 13 and you're a level 13 tyrant like you are in real life. You're a tougher monster to kill.
That tyrant money.
That tyrant money. You're a tougher monster to kill.
When the shoe fits.
So I have to be extra careful in our fight. But for example, there's one tyrant. He only comes out at this one lake when it rains.
That's my wife.
So whenever it's raining, I have second guess and go, should I run for that lake? I might get there in time. And each time, so when I first fast traveled, I got there and the rain had stopped, so I was like, crap. So then another time, I was nearby, but I ran for it. I finally decided, man, it's been raining for an hour. Let me run over there. Ran there the minute I got there. The raining stopped. No! So I haven't caught this guy, but I do like that there is a sense of, okay, some of this stuff is only a certain time of day. I think they could do a little bit of a better job of indicating where or when, like, or reminding you about some of this stuff. Like, it just kind of sits in your quest log unless you set it as your main quest, which is a good system. Like, I don't want to poo-poo on that. I think that's fine. But I just wish that my other subquests would be sort of happening in the background sometimes as well, like stuff that's more like kill related. The gathering stuff can be clueless too, because I'm like, where do I get this thing? Like, I don't know what I'm going to need it from. But I do like, basically what I'm trying to say is it is a world that's huge, but it doesn't really have the kind of markers you would get out of a GTA or out of a Fallout, where you start to associate with, okay, I know where Sanctuary is in Fallout, or I know where Diamond City is, or I know what makes that zone and that space distinct. In this one, it's 5 continents that are huge. And even though the creatures have a personality and the art direction is fantastic, sometimes I feel like I'm just missing those landmarkers that make big spaces memorable.
Gotcha.
Right.
So, like, you are specifically talking more of the kind of the guiding hand to explain how the world fits together, right? Like the Zelda games were always so good at getting you the sense it's like lake here, mountain here, right? Like, you really understand the world and how it fits together,
right?
After a while. And like, I feel like Twilight Princess actually lost a little bit of that, right? Like, and Skyward Sword certainly, because the overworld was the sky, and like you didn't get as much of a connected world.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, is there any I'm a huge fan of the Final Fantasy series. Is there kind of like a major element in the story, like the Final Fantasy to a fault does the cataclysmic event, right? Like, dun dun, and then suddenly the meteor comes down, or the world is blown up, or everybody's zombies now. Like,
everybody's a zombie.
We're in the post-apocalypse,
right? But is there? I'm saying, is there kind of like a little bit of a an element that affects the story in a grander scheme?
Yes.
So it has that. Good.
Yeah, no, there is a big, there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes, and they slowly peel them away through the course of the story. It gets serious.
So it's not just chase the monster, explore the countryside.
No, it is
really
very much
has a
survival.
Story.
Yeah, it is very much survival, and
great.
What you have to do to basically stay alive
at
one point. And it's not quite as dark as like a DayZ or something. I'm not trying to oversell it. It's still very Japanese, and so it can at times feel incredibly wacky. Not to disparage it. It's just, if you're not willing to acknowledge that's a thing, I can't help you. But there's still a level of gravitas to what's happening.
It's that fish out of water story though, where you have your giant spaceship like basically at the center of this world. It's cool, right? Like they landed on an unknown world, and I do love the setup a lot, and I think it looks very nice. And it's weird, right? Like playing this game on the Wii U, I kept on thinking this is like playing a PS2 game, not because of the visuals, but because the PlayStation was home to like all these big Japanese RPGs, right?
That's right.
It's kind of a throwback to that age, which ironically you don't find that much on the modern consoles, on the PS4 either.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to have a game like this again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's jump over to the question block. So my first question, Per, is actually going to go towards you, but I want to read. This was an email we got because I asked for feedback for folks. What did they think of Zelda Twilight Princess HD? You were not here last week when this game got announced, so I'm curious to hear your take. But this is the take of, and I'm going to summarize this because Michael Hollander, your email is too long. I'm telling you right now on the air. So next time, shorten it up. But I appreciate that you wrote in. Thank you so much for doing that. So
you can always give feedback and then do the 2-sentence question too.
Yeah, well, he doesn't answer a question. He just tells us his impressions, and I'm grateful for that much. So graphically, he thought the game didn't look impressive. It does correct the blurry sort of filter that the game had when he felt that it came out. And while it does make things a bit sharper and less dreamy all around, he thinks that's a good thing. Like the fact that it is a bit sharper. The most important thing to him was, or at least that excites him, is the departure of motion controls and unflipping the map. Because remember, if you played it on GameCube, we think.
It might still be in there, yeah.
When you played it on GameCube, the direction was basically Link was left-handed and the maps faced a certain way. In order to get it on Wii, they basically flipped everything so that Link is now right-handed because you're using motion controls. He's very happy about that. He always felt that the original Twilight Princess was a love letter to Ocarina of Time fans, and that meant a lot to him. He's also hopeful that Skyward Sword would benefit from the same treatment. I would go so far enough to say that Link Between Worlds played so well because it was the first new Zelda game in ages to not use motion control. To use traditional controls is the way he put it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What did you think of Twilight Princess?
Well, I thought the footage was underwhelming. It looked very similar. It looked the way we remember it. Now, if you put it side by side with the Wii version, you'll instantly notice, the details being cleaned up, the textures are better. It doesn't look as blurry. I mean, it's going to run in HD. So once it's on your screen, you will notice a marked difference. There's no doubt about that. I just, I was hoping that they would clean up a little bit of an issue with the Wii, is that the Wii games were all very gray. Like this one is like navy green, like it, or like kind of lighter green shade, where it's like the difference between shadow and light wasn't that pronounced. Like I feel like this game needs more of a lighting upgrade. It needs self-shadowing stuff to make it look a little better and more modern. And it's not out yet. More work is going to go into it. It is not the step up like with an Ocarina of Time remake on the 3DS.
Cleaner looking, but definitely not impressive.
Yeah, and Wind Waker was a game that looked so unique and different that just bumping up the resolution fixed like a lot of the issues with a re-release, right? Like it's such a unique looking game. With Twilight Princess was striving to be a little bit more realistic looking. So no, it didn't impress me when I saw it. I instantly, like, looking at the visuals and like Zelda turning around, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to play this again, right?
Yeah.
Not having motion controls is a good thing in my book.
Potentially, we think.
Not because I thought it was unsuccessful. I actually enjoyed the sword swinging in the game, like especially because you could run or gallop and swing your sword while doing it, right? Like it freed you up in a way.
Yeah, it did.
But there are button solutions around that work just as well.
Well, and aiming, especially the bow and arrow, I thought was the biggest improvement in the Wii version. it was very easy to point and shoot and get things done.
And so if they have aiming with the gamepad, right, like you can track the gamepad position.
We
if they have that,
play Splatoon with motion.
Yeah, if they have that, I'm all for it and leaving it in.
They had that in Wind Waker HD, by the way.
The sword slashing, though, did make my wrist hurt after a while when I played the original game, right?
And the one shortcoming of aiming in motion in Wind Waker, to me, was using the boomerang. Where with the boomerang, trying to hold down the button and also like just kind of keep everything moving. Like on a boss fight, for example, at the forest when you're rescuing the little guys. That boss fight to me was a little tough. Using motion. Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, I'm first of all happy that it finally got confirmed. It does not look that impressive when you see it. When you compare it to the previous version, it looks better. It's not going to knock anybody off their socks, but I'm hoping more work gets to be done. It's similar to Star Fox, where it has a little bit of a flat look to it.
Yeah.
And if you remember, I always felt Twilight Princess was doing a little bit what Eco did, with having like these overblown, bloom-looking kind of like this brightness to it, but it was lacking that kind of shadow. Like you need to have this, you need to also have dark colors and a little bit more vibrancy in that world. I'm hoping they can do that a little bit more.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right, our next question is for everyone. This comes from John C. Thank you for writing in, John, who's from Ireland. He says, longtime fan of the show. I think the direct we saw was awesome, and I'm a big fan of how much Zelda we got to see come to light. Though already I'm frothing for something more substantial from Zelda Wii U.
Yeah.
I was wondering when you guys think we might see the game again, and what you would like them to show us when they do.
Maybe we'll get some more footage as a Christmas present this year.
Do you do that trick twice in a row?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, the next direct is just Smash focused, so it won't be that one. Yeah. And do we know of any directs after the Smash focus
one? No, but
one?
they could put out a new trailer. I mean, they do need continued news that you need to hold on to that platform, right? That a hardware manufacturer doesn't just think about selling machines. They want to make sure you keep it hooked up. And so they have to remind you that there is stuff coming out worth waiting for next year. And the holiday lineup now, we just talked about two games that were not awesome. I think they need a reminder later this year why you should keep your Wii U.
Yeah.
And like that, I mean, just the tantalizing footage of that game, like, I want to play that now. It looks so cool.
It does look so cool. Even though I keep seeing horseback riding, I don't care. I will say that part of me, though, would not be disappointed because by traditional standards, if they kept, the silence would continue until E3, where E3 would be the big coming out party, if they felt to do it that way. However, if they did turn...
you would wait till E3?
I would wait till E3 because I already know I'm not getting that game till the fall because you're also talking to a guy who loves to stay spoiler-free or stay away from things.
So Jose decision, not business decision, is what you're saying.
The Jose decision would be like, it wouldn't bug me as someone who is playing Wii U, who owns a Wii U, if I didn't hear about that game again until E3.
Yeah.
However, it would be an interesting experiment if every other Nintendo Direct or one of the several Nintendo Directs before the digital event in E3 2016 had bite sizes of updates about Zelda. But if they do breadcrumb it like that, I almost wonder, would people be like rioting in the streets because they just want to play it already?
Yeah.
No.
Like, I don't think they've ever done something like that. That's a long tail. Nintendo doesn't promote games that heavily until they're 3 to 4 months out.
And they got Star Fox
Yeah,
in between, of course, right? So they have to do more on Star Fox. And the recent footage we saw had some more impressive visuals in it. I thought they did a nice job cleaning up the water graphics now look better. It does have self-shadowing with the spaceships and space going on. It
UI looks
does,
much better.
It's starting to look better. And so they'll probably focus a lot on those changes. But they cannot afford to not keep on peppering their communications with Zelda stuff.
I want a happy medium because pretty much for any game, the hype train just irritates me. I really am not. I do not board the hype train for anything. I'm just like, stop. I just want to play this when it's ready. So I would want a happy medium where maybe they do focus on Star Fox a little more, generate kind of excitement for that game.
Oh, they will.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
And then just maybe leave Zelda alone. And then once they have something substantial that's not horseback riding, which again, not complaining.
No.
Every time I see that game, I'm like, oh my God. But I'd want to wait until they had something really substantial to show, maybe something different. I don't need, hey, remember this game's coming out? Of course I remember it's coming out. I'm super stoked for this game already.
Yeah.
I don't need the, hey, remember Zelda? Don't forget Zelda.
2016.
Yeah, like I don't need like the logos
Reminder.
plastered. Like I don't need that.
Yeah, but look how excited people got just by what is essentially footage.
I'm raising my hand.
Could have been from the original reveal. There was nothing new in it, right?
No, it was
like,
super.
You guys did a rewind theater, didn't
Yeah,
you?
but
Yeah, they
of
did.
course we did. But
Of 6 seconds.
13.
13.
However,
Yeah.
and the fact that I
How
know
was
that
that?
is scary.
Oh, look at that blade of
blade of
grass on the right is called Wilbur.
Is that
That's-
a goat?
Yes.
Is it a goat? I don't know.
We're not sure.
All right.
This is Jose from CNN. We're not sure if that's a goat or not a goat.
Death Mountain
yeah.
on the left. Death Mountain
That's
for
true.
sure. It's there. I saw the clouds. Look, I'm excited. That I forgot where this was going because you brought up like that we did a rewind. I'm like, oh yeah, we did.
Oh, just like being excited about the trailer. Like the footage is exciting
but that
because we
little
hadn't
drop-
seen it.
Here we go,
hadn't
here we
seen
go.
it in so
Yeah.
long.
You missed last week because I said, why the heck was this not at E3? That 13 seconds would have been enough for plenty of people. The promise.
I
the promise.
disagreed for the record.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
like you
she's
wait.
disagreeing.
They made you
The
wait.
promise.
They make you wait for that
The
cracker.
promise,
So the
Pear.
cracker is more tasty.
Well,
The promise.
No, what I
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Definitely goat. I think I see a goat.
I think there's a promise. What? No, I'm
Sorry, Callie,
actually
go
playing
ahead.
a role at this point. Go ahead.
I just think that, we were so excited about this footage because we hadn't seen anything in a while. I think
Yeah.
it means more when you wait a while. And
Exactly.
I understand the
At
why wasn't this at
E3,
E3.
we hadn't seen it in a year.
I know, but remember I said last time that it would have been weird if they were like, just kidding, you're not getting it. Sorry, here's some footage. Like, I understand why they wouldn't
There
do it
were-
because I would feel weird if it was me, like, sorry, guys, disappointment, but here's your...
Okay, but there were entire Reddit, GAF, IGN posts completely sold that they wanted to see 13 seconds of footage, if that's all they got.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, fine, you start folks off. It looks great. Call me back when you got some great. So what do we want to see from it next? We've run away from the point, and I need to go
I
because I have
want
a
them.
meeting.
Yeah.
I want them to. I think it'd be smart if they did another small. I think it's Bobby Amos's birthday, and they sing it.
Either
Happy
that or
birthday
the meeting
out
just
there.
ended, and then I'm in real trouble.
Say Bobby on 1984.
And
say
send
happy birthday to
employment
him.
requests too.
I think it'd be smart if they did another really kind of quick clip of something, but not do the same horseback thing. Just throw us for a loop. Have Link just slowly walk into a cave. I mean, those kind of. It's less about showing you what the game is about. By the way, I love it when I don't see a lot of environments in a Zelda game, and I find out by myself, right? But like showing just these tantalizing little moments of kind of giving you hints at what the game should be, like Link jumping off the horse and firing the arrow, for example, I thought was awesome. That was really cool.
So- the
That's
whole
what
time
I
was
want.
like, what
and
is
I think
that
they
arrow?
should keep on doing.
You
it.
know-
Is he shooting a goat?
I know,
and also,
exact-
it does not bother me that I have not seen him in a green tunic. That it is not showing you anything traditional outside
Yeah.
of a landscape.
Our big complaint was that there wasn't a lot in the open world.
Wait.
It wasn't that we didn't see a lot of different things.
No,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what? I know exactly what I want. I want them to be like, surprise, it's a girl. That's all I want from it.
Aw, man.
Surprise.
You
That's
think
why
it's
there's-
Linkle?
Yeah. Why is there no green tunic? Maybe this iteration of Link's a girl. Why can't Link be a girl? That's the thing about Linkle is like, I am very excited about Linkle, but why isn't it just Link that is a girl? Because whatever. I won't get into that right now.
It's
but
really one of a few franchises where you can pull that off and makes total sense and would be an awesome thing.
And you know what
Link-
people were doing
Like-
in 1986 when they played the game and didn't look at the manual?
Yeah.
They assigned whatever gender
Oh,
they
yeah.
wanted
Yeah,
to
because-
that
Sally
thing.
is the name of that character.
Yeah, Link has always been
Yeah.
a very androgynous character, so
Yeah.
I think it's entirely within the realm of possibility that this iteration could be whatever you want.
It's
him
tough
or her
for them
be.
to do that. Like I actually don't think they'll do it. I think they'll feel like it's pandering at this point,
Right.
right? Like if too many people say, "Oh, that looks like a girl," and then they'll go like, "Oh, okay, no, we're not going to make it a girl," right?
Yeah.
Like,
But I don't even need it to. I want it to be an option.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can say, so no one's going to refer to me as he. Like if I put my name in there,
yeah.
like it'd be cool to be
Oh,
able to.
that'd be really cool.
Well, it's like
Just,
Fallout.
it changes nothing. Like it'd be cool if it changed nothing about how that character looks or is or nothing about about them, except I can say use these pronouns to refer to me. Here's my name, and that's all the same because this character is super. You can project yourself onto Link. That's what Link's always been. So that would be really great. That would be my big hype thing. I'd be like, finally.
My daughter freaked out when she saw Linkle.
Oh yeah, I
go.
did too.
Yeah.
What a stupid name, though.
Yeah, that's a weird name. I have a feeling she is the
sounds like
Sakura
Tingle.
to Link's Ryu. Sadly, that's what I think.
Yeah.
But no, what I want to see the next time they show us that game. Not so much different environments, but more significant, something more significant in that world. Like just not something that's super spoiler heavy, but definitely not something that's just that same field. Like I'd love to just see that field at night, to be honest, or show me like a time lapse of just like the world going by. Like I don't know, show me weather, show me something that shows me that the world is dynamic and different, without giving away what I'm going to do, because that's always the fine line to tread, right? And we know for a fact Zelda games are always about day-night. Zelda games are always about this world. And Aonuma keeps teasing he has a really cool twist on this that he's dying to show everyone.
And look, I mean, they're very deliberate in not giving out a lot of information, right?
Yeah.
Like with a game of this size and having been in development this long, they have a ton of stuff going on in that game, right? Like there are definitely dungeons that are fully fledged at this point.
Yeah.
And they know the enemy character and everything in that game, and they're not showing it, which I'm totally fine with. Like my big worry about that game is, will the world feel alive, right? And one of the issues I have with Xenoblade is that there are a lot of creatures, but it does feel a little stiff.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that it is alive.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like I would love to see
Stop it.
I would love to just see a shot of what a dungeon in this type of world looks like.
Or lastly, I'll end with show me a single day in Hyrule.
Yeah.
What could possibly happen in a random single day in Hyrule? Like what happens when you ride off into the field? Do you run into things? Do you run into side quests? Do you run into
just put the
certain
camera
types of
down
people?
somewhere and just have people walk by and like creatures come out?
More like more follow Link through a day in Hyrule. To
Yeah.
me, like it doesn't have to include a dungeon. It doesn't have to include anything else. I just want to see the diversity of things you can do.
Yeah.
To me, that says a lot.
That's cool.
All right, so let's move on to the last question
wait.
because we spent a ton of time on that.
Yeah, whoops.
Last
play
thing,
that
and then
game
we
so
got to
bad.
go.
Yeah.
This one comes in from Nick Hickman. We are so late for that meeting. Hey guys, in last week's Nintendo Direct, Nintendo was very quick to point out that 2016 will be the 30th anniversary of the Zelda series. Well, thank you, Nick. We've actually pointed that out on this podcast as well. 2016 is also the 30th anniversary of Metroid. Do you think we will see any fanfare for that franchise? And if so, what do you think we could expect? Now, I like this question just because it's true. Metroid and Zelda were both products of 1986. And here we are 30 years later for both. It has been a while since we've seen a traditional Metroid game. The stage is set for Legend of Zelda Wii U, and they're using Twilight Princess as part of their marketing for 30 years of Zelda.
There's not a doubt in my mind that they will have Metroid something. It's just
they do
not,
have Metroid something.
But
It's called Federation Force,
Yeah, no.
and a bunch of people threw a hissy fit.
But that's not Metroid. That's spin-off.
Yes,
That's like
agree.
That's like saying we just got an Animal Crossing game.
Exactly,
Right? Like
it's not
that's
the
not
same.
the same thing. And that game may very well be really, really good and fun to play.
I think
right?
it has a chance.
And yeah, but there has to be. They will not walk away from their icons. Like F-Zero.
You
I
sure
think
about
it's,
that? They've walked away from F-Zero.
I think F-Zero is a little different. F-Zero, they retconned Captain Falcon into being the star of that franchise. That franchise was about a huge cast of characters and very, very diverse characters, and they kind of elevated that character and gave him more to do.
Well, his popularity in Smash Brothers helped that, I would imagine.
Metroid is a character-driven game. I mean, Samus is... It doesn't matter who is in the suit. Samus, the suit, designed that world. It is a one-person versus the world game. That is not what F-Zero is. And that is an icon, and they will continue to grow that icon.
Okay, so
They better.
Metroid Zero Mission has been out in Japan forever. Metroid Prime Hunters has been out in Japan on Virtual Console, both these games forever. So the easy bet is that those two games come out this year. Like the lowest possible barrier of things to do involving Metroid are that those two games come out in 2016. But... is there a new thing that gets announced or shown? We know that our lovely friends at Retro have started their next game.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country 3 is going to...
They are not on Federation Force. That is being done by a different developer. So it almost makes you wonder if the stage is set, because since Tropical Freeze, we haven't heard from that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
I don't know. There are a lot of developers out there who could do a bang-up job at a Metroid
Everyone
game. Remember,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be a Prime or a third-person Metroid game in the traditional kind of console sense. It could be a 2D game. There are amazing 2D developers out there. I cannot imagine that Nintendo would just say we're not investing in that franchise at all.
Yeah,
there has to be something.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for them to just drop the ball on the 30th anniversary of this franchise. I would be extremely disappointed.
I would argue that Nintendo's not very good at anniversaries. I mean, anniversaries have come and gone with some of the most unceremonious I've ever seen.
I was going to say they did a huge thing for Mario.
The year of Luigi was huge.
So hang on a minute. Wait,
it was like 2 years.
What big thing did they do for Mario? Because the 25th anniversary came and went with a port of basically Mario All-Stars in a box, with an art book and a CD, which was nice, but it didn't feel like as big scale as an icon like Mario deserved. And
That's
then
true.
with Mario Maker, we had a lot of interview access and Miyamoto and Tezuka talking.
Yeah.
But how many Mario products did you really see this year on the 30th anniversary?
That's
Mario?
a good point. Maybe it's not product heavy, it's more celebration heavy. They do a little more with celebration. I feel like, especially just Samus is so iconic as just like a female video game character as well. I would be extremely disappointed if they did not give her her proper time, just because she means so much to so many people, especially as a female gamer. Just like that when you find out she's a girl, that's the best thing. She can do anything. You don't even have to know she's a girl. That was so big. And
that's the twist. Now it's going to be a guy.
Dun, dun, dun,
No.
dun, dun.
I just think it would be horribly disappointing on many fronts if they didn't do a single thing. Even if just a social media thing.
Well, there will be amiibos. Come on, you're gonna get your Ridley amiibo and all that kind of stuff. That is an easy way. That's
I'm kidding.
settle it in Smash. That's an
Yeah.
easy way to celebrate franchise, to have these special edition amiibo out there. And if freaking Chibi Robo can get one, I'm sure we'll see more from the Metroid series as well. There's gotta be a game. Come on, get out of here.
Yeah,
of course
I've
there's.
heard these gotta be's from Pear before.
I know. I've
Let
said
me
this
tell
for
you,
20 years.
I'm the only guy keeping track sometimes.
To be
of
fair,
the Pear gotta be.
We got since we
keep a
used to
tally.
always we used to
Quietly.
ask Nintendo over and over for a lifetime from the Metroid series, and then we got not one but 3 Metroid Prime games, and they were great games.
Yeah. And if Federation Force comes out alongside something that stars Samus, I think a lot more people will be happy.
Yeah.
To be fair, yeah.
Really
We'll see.
fast.
No brainer for
Yeah.
me. It's gonna happen.
Really fast. 2016 is also the 20th anniversary of Pokemon.
Jesus.
Well, you're getting your virtual console games, all the
Yeah.
That's
colors.
it.
I'm so
all you-
excited. Stop! I'm gonna cry. Stop! I already cried.
All right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of anniversaries
That
coming
was-
up. Just
Yeah.
saying, it's
Game Boy.
Yeah, but Pokemon stuff I count as a separate entity just
Oh,
because
it's not.
Nintendo doesn't
Pokemon is a different thing because
For
of
sure.
the it being a Pokemon company thing. But there are a lot of anniversaries coming up. I really hope that they don't let
Yeah.
any one of them drop completely.
So just to be the counter argument to you, I'm gonna sit here and say that those Wii U games, those virtual console games, absolutely come over. But I bet you, I don't know, it's hard to. I hate betting against you, but I only do it because sometimes I just want to be the other
because
voice.
you always lose.
No, I don't always lose. First of all, Mr. Star Fox is getting a big online multiplayer. How'd that turn out?
you gotta. Well, it's not out yet. No, you gotta place some bets.
I do, and I like yours, but I'm gonna say just because of how quiet they've been, unless they've been conscious of it, and I don't think they have been. I wouldn't be surprised if 2016 comes and goes, and maybe we get an announcement, but we definitely don't get a new Metroid game. An announcement would be enough, to be honest. To me, an announcement would be enough because it means that
would.
You're gonna be
care.
sorry when Metroid is the NX launch game.
No, that would fit.
It's Mario, bro. I'm putting it there.
Like Retro's been working all this time on the NX launch
Sorry,
game,
Callie.
Metroid.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Last thought is I think an announcement would fit well with what we discussed like a couple minutes ago, just not being product focused necessarily for anniversaries, but like kind of thematically focused. So, that you might
Other
not.
MHD.
Well, you can absolutely do an HD remaster for
He
these
didn't even
games.
acknowledge it. He just kept going.
You can
Anyway.
absolutely remaster the Prime games in HD.
Okay.
That's that's kind of like the no-brainer approach, and you pack in, the spaceship and Ridley and Samus as amiibo or something like that. That kind of stuff, I think they will do anyway.
I will say this: the next Metroid game, I would bet, isn't from the next Prime game. Like, the next mainline game is Sakamoto, and it's not Takeda. Because Takeda told everyone his dream for Metroid 4, and he also made it very clear this is not in development. Like, this is just my idea. This is something I always wanted to explore, and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Last thing. Dropping the mic.
We gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go. I'm getting yelled at after this. All right, go ahead.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up for Metroid.
Right. I'll probably
that franchise is not done by a long shot.
For sure. I hope it's not. All right, thank you for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. We are a weekly show on IGN, but we are in fact not the only show on IGN. Great show called Up at Noon, which Brian is on constantly. In fact, he missed us for preparations for that. We got a ton of shows from anime to Xbox to you name it. Make sure you check it out. We also have videos, features, articles, previews, reviews. Not all of them really bad. So make sure you check those out. Lastly, you can leave us feedback. So head on over to, there's a couple places you can leave feedback. First, head on over to iTunes, leave us a show review. Or if not, email us, nvc@ign.com. Let us know what you think. We're always curious to see what you have to say. Lastly, you can find us on Twitter. You can find the Master GM class.
Tyrant.
The Tyrant.
Pair IGN.
The level 13 Tyrant, Pair IGN. You can find Callie Plegosaurus Rex at
Inkydojiko, INKYDOJIKKO.
And lastly, you can find myself, Jose _
Harajuku
Otero.
now.
It is Jose _ Otero on Twitter. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat.
Get the thing.